Hey, everybody, it is Mike Young, 55 years young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and I have got an amazing interview for you all, a treat today. Dr. Doug Graham, who, as you probably already know, wrote the 80-10-10 book. And it's almost like a Bible, I'd say, in terms of taking care of yourself, doing the best you can, not just surviving, but thriving. And welcome, Dr. Graham.
Well, bless your heart. It's a treat to be here with you.
All right. Yeah. Well, actually, where are you today? I'm on the eastern U.S.
I'm on the southern coast of England,
Okay.
about
Yep.
2 hours south of London.
All right. Excellent. Well, I've been there. My wife Denise and I have traveled there, but it was many years ago, and it's a great place. So I'm glad to see you doing well there. I know it's later in the day too, so we're different time zones. But I wanted to let everybody know, first of all, if they don't know you, you are 72 years young. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're already further along in your journey, no matter what, in terms of time than I'll ever be. And from what I understand, you've been raw vegan since 1978. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I didn't even know what vegan was growing up in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that most people didn't know.
Nor me in the 50s and 60s.
Okay. And
Hadn't
you're
heard of
also,
it.
you didn't hear of it. Yeah, but somehow you
No.
got into this movement, right? I mean, you're a doctor of chiropractic. And what were you doing at that time? What kind of got you into it?
Well, I was a professional trampolinist at the time, having finished college in 75, and all through college made the transition to vegetarian as it just made more sense. I was studying physical education, but also nutrition every semester. And I just kept hearing how important it was to eat fruits and vegetables, eat fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are good for you. And at some point, just said, gosh, I wonder if I should actually consider the information as valid. Like what would happen if I ate more fruits and vegetables? So I started eating more fruits and vegetables rather than just starchy food, and found out that starchy food had a pretty good hold on me, had a
Mm-hmm.
grip, uh, and that was a challenge. So I did 7 years of vegetarian. I eventually went vegan, thinking I'd arrived, and I only did vegan for a few months, and switched over to raw vegan. It just made more sense. It really just made more sense. I mean, I look at the model in nature and see every animal eating raw food. I
Yeah.
look at the the history from whether we read the paleontologists, people like the Leakeys, who wrote the Origins of Humankind book, where they say, well, what happened was the brain question, you know, because people have different answers. What the anthropologists say is that we found a denser food source, that we know it
Mm-hmm.
had the potential for a big brain, um, but without sufficient calories, just couldn't get there, couldn't grow in that way. Much like the key deer are the same as the Virginia white-tailed deer, but they're a quarter the size. Simply,
Mm.
they just don't have the nutrition available. So,
Okay.
what all the anthropologists, none of them say we started eating meat, by the way. All of them
Okay.
say we found a denser calorie source.
I see.
So, the thing that's really available, as everybody knows, the thing that's really available in the world is leaves. Leaves are plentiful.
Yeah.
And when we switched to fruit, which has a caloric density of about 4 to 20 times as much as leaves do, this fostered the growth. Now, there's some biologists who also say that the reason humans got smarter was because of all the decisions they had to make
Hmm.
in order to find fruit, remember where it was from last year, which fruit was
Yeah.
good for us, which wasn't, which one made us get sick and fall out of the trees. Um, and what's ripe fruit. There was just so much learning as compared to just eat a leaf, see a leaf, eat a leaf.
Yeah.
Is way a lot more discrimination, a lot more decisions, and that decision making ability is linked um, in the science they call noetics or intelligence. Um, Making decisions is one of the big factors in intellect. So a
Yeah.
lot more decisions to be made in picking out ripe fruit than there ever is in saying, "Oh, there's a leaf. Let me grab it."
I agree. Actually, I say to my wife, Denise, because we buy so much fruit, that I'm a produce manager. And there's a lot to it. You want to eat that at the full state of ripeness. You don't want to eat it too early, and you don't want to wait too long, and you don't have much time either.
There's, yeah, that's called the window, and
Yeah.
um, there's two kinds of fruit. There's the climacteric and the non-climacteric. Some will ripen after you pick, and some won't.
Right.
Learning about that helps with your produce management, and that
Yeah.
and that way you can buy green bananas knowing full well they'll ripen, whereas buying a green papaya, it will never ripen.
Hmm.
So there's bits and pieces of things to learn. I think that um, judging from the experience I've seen with my wife and I, our own daughter, um, most of the things you need to learn about food, you can pretty well pick up by the time you're 8,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
after
Well,
that, it's just a matter of application.
let me go back to that change you made in 1978 when you started eating all raw.
Mhm.
Did you feel a difference? I mean, you talked about a lot of knowledge here, but did you feel a difference when you did that?
Well, what I did is I did an experiment. When I went raw, it was to perform an experiment, and the experiment was for a month. I said, okay, I'll do it for a month. Let's see what happens. There was, after 14 days, there was no going back.
Uh-huh.
It was so profound. There was just no going back. So at that point, I just said, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stay with it. And so far, the only thing I can tell you is I'm still doing the experiment.
All right. Well, we'll see.
I've
That's
had a
been
lot of
my.
people tell me, a lot of people said, raw food's really good for you in the short run, but in the long run, your health will fail. I'm waiting for that to happen now after 45 years and going more. Um,
Hmm.
my health hasn't failed. Everything still works the way it's supposed to work. And 6 weeks from now, I've got national championships in powerlifting. I try to have every intention of defending my title once again
All right. Yeah.
as
I mean,
national champ. Yeah.
I wish I could say I was a power lifter being a guy. I'm not. Well, I guess I can always transition to that. But, you know, the fact that
I
you are,
started at your age.
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's still time. Because I
Yeah.
actually believe, I believe in health span and longevity. I do believe that, 150 is a good goal. That's my goal anyway, because, I think that as you can attest to here, the average person's doing so many things wrong. What if you tried to do almost everything right? What would that look like? And I think, you're powerlifting at 72. So there you go. I mean,
Well,
75 is the average age, right? That people
the,
live to.
the thing is, I think worthy of considering that what's called the first 20 years of our life are considered the developmental years.
Hmm.
And during those developmental years, the likelihood is you weren't eating a plant-based diet.
Hmm.
And so your development, like most of us, mine as well, was very much stumped during those first 20 years, never reached the potential uh, that I would have liked to have reached had I known about the 80-10-10 or raw food diet, had I known it all. I just didn't. I ate lots of fruits and vegetables, but nothing compared to, what I do now, which is just fruits and vegetables.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, So that's a good point because I wasn't optimal in any way. Now you mentioned 80-10-10. That's your book.
But you
Uh,
say 150, you say 150, and I have a long-term goal as well in that regard. I was at the bicentennial in 1976,
yeah, I
and
remember.
and I am a fan of fireworks, um, even though I know the animal rights issues involved. But I am a fan of fireworks, and
Hmm.
I swore on that day of July 4th in 76 that I'd come back for the 2076 for the
All right.
tricentennial. I'd very much like to see those fireworks. And
Yeah,
I'll be 123 at that point. So if you're going to make it to 150, you can come and we'll share the fireworks together.
of course. Yeah, that'll be excellent because I tell people that'll be right about the time that I'm going to start to have some real influence, I'd say, because I tell people until I'm about 110, it's good. I know that it's really tough to convince people. We know how tough and set in their ways people are, right? But if they see somebody that's over
Yeah.
110 out there living life, doing things, they're going to immediately start to question what's going on and maybe make some different choices. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
Well,
that.
um,
Well,
certainly walking your walk um, gets people thinking. Everybody has their reasons why they think they're not credible, and ways that they can increase their credibility. Uh,
mhm.
Obviously, mine, part of it has to do with just being a long-term raw vegan. Part of it's being a doctor. Part of it's being the most knowledgeable in the world of raw food of pretty much anybody. And
Yeah.
and I intend to I'm still learning every single day. So I love
Yes, me
that
too.
part. I love that part. And personally, I think you're already credible. So I would
Yeah.
I wouldn't I would hate to wait another 55 years for you to achieve credibility.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't mean to imply that I wasn't credible, but I'll have additional influence. Like the highest level possible. If somebody's over 110 and they're saying, "Hey, we can do this, health span, longevity, no chronic illness. You go out and do what you want, double your lifespan, all that stuff." I mean, that's
Well, I
that's.
challenge
I mean,
you to be that influential right now.
all right, all right. Well,
Uh,
well,
Be that
well.
influential right now.
Well, we're doing it.
I give you
You know some of the
permission.
things. All right, thank you. Some of the things we're into, like the health optimization cruise, the health optimization safari. We have experience in Ecuador in a fully vegan, chemical-free permaculture community. So we're doing everything we can. And I think people are taking note. And we see that the consciousness level of the world is slowly but surely going up, and
Yes.
that and that's what we like to see. And actually, I want to get back to your book, the 80-10-10, because I wanted to let people know, especially if they're not familiar, what that book means. Because 80 is the carb percentage of your diet, right?
Yes.
And then two tens are protein and fats. So can you just give us a very quick overview of what that means? And of course, you're talking raw vegan 80-10-10, right?
Sure. Well, the idea of 80-10-10 has been around for a long time. The idea that human beings thrive on a diet where more than 80% of the calories come from carbs um, is is at least 65, 70 years old. This has been
Right.
shown in science for quite some time, mostly in sports science, but also in health science. 1959, there was an article in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and it explained that the basic cause of diabetes 2 was too much fat in the diet. That, but then we started seeing in sports performance that VO max and overall ability to perform. VO max goes down as the fat goes up, and ability to perform goes up as the carbohydrates go up.
Mm-hmm.
80-10-10 is a pretty long standing idea. This is where the idea of, even though it's not true, everybody, even though it's not true, the idea of carbohydrate loading came from this 80-10-10 idea.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
and what we see is that when we look at all the long-lived people in the world, when we look at all the highest performing people in the world, we keep coming back that they're eating a carbohydrate-based diet, and that's the maintenance level. That's the sustainable thing. Sure, there's lots of people doing this, that, or the next on a whim for a month or two, but in terms of
Hmm.
we look at the Kenyan runners, they're eating 80-10-10. Um, we look at the long-lived people, as I said, they're all doing 80-10-10 or very close to it. When we look at all the animals that are built like us, all the anthropoid primates, they're all eating 80-10-10 as well. So
Right.
what 80-10-10 stands for is at least 80% of your carbohydrates. It's really 80 to 90% of your calories coming from carbohydrate and a max out at 10% protein, 10% fat as an average over a period of time. So,
Hmm.
this has been shown to be best for longevity, best for heart health, best for pancreas health, best for anti-cancer, best for health and fitness and sports performance. Just in every single way possible, there's not been a downside. And when it finally dawned on me, having gone through my whole medical training, taking nutrition again every semester of medical school, because it's
Right.
offered in chiropractic college, it's not
Right.
offered in medical
Yeah.
school per se, but in chiropractic, yeah, I could take nutrition every semester, so I did. And wouldn't you know, I just said, there's got to be a way to take this raw food idea and make it sustainable.
Yeah.
Because most of the people I've ever met doing raw foods have failed on raw foods. They tried it and came off it and tried it and came off it and tried it and came off it till it was ridiculous. Tried it and gave up on it. Tried it and lost so much weight that they couldn't do it. Tried it and couldn't stay athletic. Tried it and something else, health would fail. So I just go, you know what? In school they told me eat fruits and vegetables, and in health science and performance science in medical science they all say 80-10-10 gives the optimal results. How about if we just turn that into a raw food approach to 80-10-10? What would that look like?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I spent all of the 90s figuring that out, and
Hmm.
then started writing in the year 2000, started writing and spent
Right.
5 years lecturing about what I was writing and then finally coming out with the book in 2005.
It's wonderful. Okay. Well, let me clarify. When you
So I
say
take no
carbs,
credit for 80-10-10. I take credit for 80-10-10 as a raw vegan diet.
I see. I see. Okay. Well, when you say carbs, we're talking whole plant carbs. We're not talking processed carbs, right? I just want to make sure to make that clear.
100% whole food diet.
Yeah. Okay. Because so many people think that carbs are bad. And if they're talking about processed carbs, they are correct. But
Well,
whole plant
there's an interesting thing in nutritional science, and the interesting thing is nutritional science is they hijacked a word, as most disciplines do. They hijacked some words and called those technical words. Okay, so
carbs.
in computers they hijacked all the medical terminology, right? And there's bugs and virus and all that kind of stuff. In the world of nutrition, they hijacked the word and they used the word essential,
Mm,
but they didn't use it in the way that lay people use the word essential. They use the word essential to mean not manufactured by the body, must come from outside the body, which in most cases means must be consumed, must be part of our
mm,
food. There are some
right.
exceptions to that. There are exceptions to that, like the extrinsic factor of B12 comes from microbes. Um, Vitamin D comes from the sun. There are some
Mhm.
exceptions. It doesn't all have to come from food, but the essential nutrients must come from outside the body. And the question that commonly comes up is, well, I know there's essential amino acids, those are proteins, And I know that there's essential fatty acids, those are fats. Dr. Graham, you keep saying carbohydrates are so important. How come there's no essential carbohydrates?
Mm.
How would you answer that?
How would I answer that? Yeah, well, you're
If
talking about,
somebody asked you that question, what would you say?
I guess I would bring it back to the whole plants, and that's the kind of carbohydrates I'm talking about. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the medical terminology.
Okay, so basically the answer is that in the creation of the human body, we'll say nature or God or spirit or whatever you want to call it, that we are designed to be foolproof. So
Uh-huh.
no matter what you eat, your body converts it to carbs.
I see. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Carbs are so important, we could say essential, but carbs are so important to human functioning that no matter what, you could live on just blubber, your body will convert it to carbs. You could live on
Mm.
just protein powder out of a can, your body will convert it into carbs. But the ideal carbs are the ones found in fruits.
Yeah.
Those are the most easily accessible. There's a there's a famous sports nutritionist who spent 10 years trying to come up with a better way to feed cyclists because the cyclists can't when they're doing Tour de France, they can only eat 350 calories an hour while they're burning 900 an hour.
Mm.
And it's very hard to finish a tour or even any single ride because you just run out of fuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he came up with a new formula after 10 years of research. And using his formula, they could get 50% more calories, which gives them 500 an hour.
Mm.
That was miraculous.
Yeah.
What was his source? Fructose and glucose, the two
There you go.
carbohydrates found in fruit.
Right.
He could
Right.
have just said, hey guys, just eat fruit. But no, 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 he had to have a supplement. So he sold it as a supplement. But the
Yeah.
idea was that fructose and glucose, the reason to let them eat more is because it's so easy to digest,
Right. Right. I get it. I get it. That makes
so easy
sense.
to absorb. So when you're doing cardio at full out, the digestive system is almost shut down. But to absorb the sugars from fruit requires no digestion. They're already
Yeah.
glucose and fructose. They don't have to be broken down.
Yes.
So it was a stroke
Yes.
of a stroke of genius on his part.
Yeah.
It took him 10 years to figure out that, oh, fruits are good for us.
Well, let me ask you a question, Dr. Graham, in regards to that. What I tell folks a lot of times is, hey, you're going to do your best health-wise when you consume things that your body recognizes as food. And it sounds
Yes.
like what you're saying is that like fruits is something that the body absolutely recognizes as food. It has to do almost nothing to take advantage of it, right? Whereas if you put something that's it doesn't recognize, I usually say, well, that's going to result in the expression of some kind of disease over time, because the body doesn't like it. The disease mode is kind of like the body trying to communicate that to you. That's how I word it anyway when I say, what do you think about
Okay. So
that?
if you break the word disease into two words, then you've got your answer. It's
Yeah.
ease. Dis means bad, and ease, you know, already we know. So not at ease makes the body work harder. It makes the body take more time, can burn more calories to get the same job done, and then still not be able to get the job done. There's just no way. The old expression of sow's ear into a silk purse, you just can't be done.
Right.
So, in the world of nutrition, we either start out with our natural food, using the title of the book by Dave Klein, Our Natural Food. We either start with that or we eat something else and then try to make up for the fact with supplements and condiments and stimulants and irritants and on through the job, none
Mm-hmm.
of which could ever make up for the fact that we didn't start out with fruits and vegetables in the first place.
Right. Right. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Absolutely.
So the model that I use is one called hygiene, where
Hmm.
instead of trying to treat the symptoms, we remove the cause of the symptoms. Instead of trying
Yes.
to supplement the diet, we just say, you know what, just give the body what it needs in the first place because the body is programmed for health.
Hmm.
Health is the natural state.
Yes, I fully agree with that. That's why, like, when I explain to people, hey, disease can actually be a good thing if you recognize it for what it is and you react the way your body wants you to, right? Because then it'll stop expressing that. As long as, like you said, you're giving your body the natural food that it expects. And that's wonderful,
Well,
you know.
food is a big part of healthful living. There's a good 32 factors involved in healthy living. So food makes up at least 3% of healthy living. And in every case, where we're furthest off base is the place where you can make the most progress. So
Yes.
it turns out most people are furthest off base with their food. Most people do sleep at night. Most people do get out and move a bit here and there. Most
Yeah.
people do work on their attitude or drink clean water and breathe clean air. Uh, but with our food, we got really led astray.
Yeah.
So it makes a huge difference, just like upgrading any weak link.
Hmm.
So for most people, food is the weakest link.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So they're going to see the most benefit for the least amount of effort by changing and
Exactly.
optimizing that food. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
okay. Now back to your 80-10-10. 10%, you said maximum calories from fat. That's something I see almost like an epidemic out there. I don't see anybody restricting their fat to 10%. I see, like, if I run the numbers on most of the foods, it's like 30 to 40% calories from fat for everybody out there. And of course,
Mhm.
I asked a question to one of
Unless
the
they're raw
LLM.
fooders, in which case it's more.
Yeah, I've seen that too. We go to raw vegan events and restaurants, and they add oil and they use lots of nuts and seeds whipped up in their stuff, and it's so high fat, And I don't do well with it, So I've always had a body that kind of complains very quickly. I'm more like the canary in the coal mine type of a situation. So I've always strayed away from those things. And, I realized it was to my benefit. And now that, of course, your book was published, about 20 years ago now, I suppose, almost, you've brought that full circle to an understanding that, yeah, you don't want to go above 10. So you have to run those calculations, right?
Well, well, a couple things. First of all, I don't restrict. Okay, it's not like I'm restricting my fat, but I am
Right.
maximizing my carbs. I
Right.
am I'm allowing myself all the fruit I want. And in order to maintain my athleticism, in order to maintain my longevity and my youthfulness, my clarity of mind, I'm eating all the fruit that I desire every single day. Um, that already takes care of any issues about restricting other things. I don't have to restrict. It's not what I'm staying away from, it's what I'm going
Yeah.
towards. Okay.
You're right. Yeah.
Uh, and then I don't I don't like condemn other foods. I'm not going to say, oh well, don't eat nuts or don't eat seeds or anything like that. I just max out on my fruits and veggies because those are the best for me. Those give me
Right.
the results I want. I know how I want to wake
Right.
up tomorrow morning. I know when I want to be clear-minded. I know um, when I want to be doing my best in sport, and I know what I expect of myself in sport, and I know how to get those results. And it's got to do with certain mindsets, certain types of training, certain amount of sleep, certain kinds of food. Those bring me the results that I want to get. So I
Yeah.
kind of go there. As far as knowing, I would say, how do you know what time it is?
Look at the sun. See where the
Okay.
sun is.
So So looking at the sun is one way of knowing. Um, there's a bunch of ways, but one of them is wearing a watch, right? Like people wear a watch, they get a sense of what time it is.
Yes.
After you wear a watch for a while, you don't need to rely on the watch so much because you get a sense of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
for maybe beginners do need to um, count calories or learn about nutrition and nutrients and use websites or whatever they need to do to learn. But once you know there's
Yes.
100 calories in a banana, you don't have to go figure it out again and again and again.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. If you're eating
So
fruits,
it's
yeah.
just it's a pretty quick learning thing. Can you give me 30 seconds? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm home alone and there's someone at my door that's I'm
Oh yeah.
expecting a package. I'll
Yep.
be right back.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so that was a quick transition. All right, we're back. So yeah, I totally agree and support what you're saying. You're focusing on the positive. You're like, hey, the fruits are like the best, the veggies, but especially the fruits. So the more you eat of those, the less you want to even eat of anything else, and it doesn't even matter because you're going to regulate. You're going to self-regulate.
So people ask me how come I don't go out, and condemn meat or condemn dairy, and I just go, I don't need to condemn anything. I need to tell you what I'm in favor of.
Yeah.
For me, I spent a lifetime telling people what I'm in favor of.
Yes, I agree. Okay, now let me ask a more specific question in regards to fruit, since you brought that word up so many times.
Yeah.
Like I know some folks who are fruitarian. Now you don't talk
Mhm.
about being fruitarian, but I'm just kind of curious as to
No.
your take on this.
Okay. We are designed as frugivores. Our anatomy and physiology, our entire biochemistry is set up to be a frugivore, and
Mm-hmm.
that includes the consumption of a lot of fruit. Um, I have yet to meet anyone in my lifetime who lived on solely fruit.
Mm-hmm.
However, once again, we come to terminology because there are two kinds of fruit. There's fruit according to the botanist, and there's
Mm.
fruit according to the kitchen. So
Okay.
in the kitchen, fruit is the way you eat it. But to the botanist, fruit is a very defined term. So it's a fleshy body with seeds on the inside, making okra a fruit,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
making a zucchini a fruit,
That's right. Yeah.
okay? Making eggplant a fruit. And it leaves cashew. I mean, it's called a cashew apple, it's called a cashew fruit, but the seed
Uh-huh.
is on the outside. So it's
Uh-huh.
not a fruit,
Uh-huh.
according to the botanist.
Right.
And then
Right.
there's things like pineapple, which is a multiple fruit, not a fruit. And
Mm.
so I find that first of all, very few people have botanical training.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm in the kitchen, I'm eating in the kitchen. I'm not going to open up a botany book to find out whether or not something is a grain or a grass or a fruit or a whatever it might be, a drupe.
Yep.
There's all kinds of classifications. So I just always, always, always use botanical use as my determining factor
Okay.
rather than rather I'm sorry, culinary use as my determining
Okay.
factor, and never need people to be trained in botany. So unless I say otherwise, I'm talking about culinary usage, which makes
Okay.
the tomato a vegetable,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
makes okra a vegetable, which makes a pepper a vegetable. Now I understand some people argue and some people get confused. And there are people who eat only botanical fruits. And so they
Mm-hmm.
eat tomatoes and cucumbers and okra and zucchini, and they
Mm.
consider it fruit in
I see.
their definition.
Yes.
I even had one guy one time tell me that he was a fruitarian and he eats lettuce.
Mm.
I
Okay.
said, how does lettuce fit in as a
Yeah.
fruit? And he said, well, I'm a fruitarian, so anything I eat is fruit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so those, to me, those are some funny definitions, and they're not
Yeah.
definitions that the average person can use. The average person goes into the kitchen and cuts a pepper in half. They're putting it in a vegetable salad. It's another vegetable. So
Mm-hmm.
when you ask me, do I know anybody that's thrived on an all fruit diet? Not in the kitchen kind of fruit. But
Mm,
botanically, yes, it is certainly quite possible to eat
I see.
only cucumbers and tomatoes and call them fruit along with your other fruits and do just fine.
Okay. I see. So
The
botanically,
people
in the
I've
botanical.
but I've met
Okay.
lots of people tried to live on just culinary fruit,
Mhm.
just living off of just oranges or living off of just watermelon or living off of just fruit, and invariably their health has failed. They've lost their teeth, they've lost their mind, they've lost their life over a philosophy that really didn't make any sense. We're
Mm.
designed to eat fruits and vegetables.
Okay, I see. All right,
That's
now,
how we're built. We're made for fruits and vegetables.
all right, I would agree. That's good to know. I like that explanation with the culinary botanical. I learned something right here, right now, and I appreciate that. Well, let me also clarify one thing about the fruits. You're talking about whole fruits. You're not talking about fruit juices. Is that correct?
My T-shirt, do I have one here? My T-shirt says whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. Again, I'm not coming out against juices.
Mhm.
I'm simply coming out in favor of whole food.
Yes,
I
yes.
teach culinary schools. I teach culinary skills. And when people come to culinary skills, I might show them things to do with juices. Like you could make tomato juice and have a nice clear drink and then take all the fiber and put it into a salad dressing. Or
Okay.
you could make an orange juice and then take the fiber and turn it into some kind of a sauce or a spread or a dip or a whatever else you want. Eventually we're going to serve the whole food even if we fractioned it out as a fancy 80-10-10 chef might at a 12-course meal. But for
Right.
day in, day out eating, I'm eating whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. That's my diet. Whole,
Yeah.
fresh, ripe, or organic plants. That is the optimum for humans. It's what humans have lived on
Yes.
for millions of years.
Yes, I agree, and it's the whole plant, like you say. It's closest to nature. That's another way I would describe it, I think. And
But
you
even
know,
you, Mike, I mean, you probably peel your banana.
I do. Yeah.
You probably peel your orange too,
Yes.
and maybe
Yes.
even your avocado.
Yes. Yep.
So when you say whole, yeah, you're stepping down an interesting little path there, right? And you go, oh, but I meant the
Yes. I see.
edible portion, or I
I
meant the
see where you're
fruit.
going. Yeah.
Yeah, because you eat the skin on the apple, how do you differentiate?
Right. I get it. That makes sense. I mean, well, I
Yeah,
will say. I will say, even if I don't eat the banana peels, which I don't, they go
they
in the
are
compost
edible.
pile. Yeah, what's that?
They are edible.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. But I do use them still because they go in the compost pile into the plants that I'm growing. They'll fertilize those plants, so they're still part of
Yeah,
that cycle.
yeah, I agree with that. It's just we what happens is this, right? Like I come out with a book 80-10-10. I thought I made things pretty clear. But over the last 20 years, people have paid attention to the detail
Hmm.
and they start asking questions like, well, do you eat the watermelon skin? Do you eat the rind of the watermelon? It's part of the whole food. Aren't we
Uh-huh.
designed to eat the whole food, Dr. Graham? Well, um, so I'm talking about what I consider to be the edible portion. But then I've met other people who say, well, we only eat the edible portion of the watermelon. It's about the size of a baseball and it's in the very center. And that's the only part we eat. We throw the whole thing else.
My gosh.
I've met people who do that.
Yes. Well, I can also give you my own little story. I've met people that say that the fruits that grow on the ground are not designed for humans. They're actually designed for rodents. And so they wouldn't even eat a watermelon. They would compost it
Okay.
if someone gave them one.
Okay. Fair enough. They can do what they wish. Uh, to
Yes.
me, to me, fruits grow on trees, bushes, vines, even canes. Right. So they come in all
Right.
sorts of variety. And to me, fruit's fruit. If I can eat it, I'm gonna sneak up on it and eat it right there where I find it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me kind of summarize so far. It's mainly fruits, but you're going to eat all kinds of raw organic plants, a variety of things, but
Yeah,
mainly
what
fruit.
well, the word is the most understandable is fruits and shoots, young tender vegetables.
Okay. Okay.
When I lived in Georgia, we used to there they called it salad fixings.
Yeah.
And then I moved down to Florida, they started calling it greens. So and then people go, "What is a tomato green, Dr. Graham?" And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, this is like you can get way too picky uh, to the point where you lose the concept rather than gain clarity in the minutia." So the
Hmm.
idea is fruits and shoots or fruits and vegetables. This is the bulk of the diet. It can be the whole sum of the diet. You can include fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds if you like. Um,
Right.
and and I'm here just to promote the consumption of fruits and vegetables. That's the ticket. And so I run my retreats, like my upcoming Bali retreat. I run culinary skills courses
You do.
to
Yeah.
help people understand how in the world are we supposed to put this together into a sustainable, enjoyable, easy diet, makes life easier. And to me, the answer for that is being healthy is the easiest thing in the world.
Hmm.
Compared to being sick, being healthy is
Yeah. That's right.
effortless.
Oh, yeah. Whenever Denise and I give a talk, we usually will ask for a show of hands. Who likes being sick? Raise your hand. Yeah, and no one ever raises their hand.
No,
Yeah.
no. It's
So
like when I
fortunately,
ask a group who wants to be stronger and everybody raises their
there
hand.
you go.
Yes,
There
we
you go.
all want to be stronger. Who's doing strength training? Up,
Yeah,
all
that's
the
right.
hands come down.
Oh,
Nobody.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I am. I think that's definitely, especially as you gather more years, right? I think the number one reason for somebody really getting a serious problem is a slip and fall. And if you have that muscle strength and balance, just basic strength, is all somebody really needs. You're going to avoid that in most cases.
At my age, the most dangerous thing I do is step into a bathtub.
Oh, yeah.
So I agree with your slip and fall. Most people that tell me they're doing strength training are doing something else other than strength training. They don't really even know what strength training is. This is why I
Okay.
teach. This is why I teach things like um, osteoporosis reversal, diabetes reversal, MS reversal. And to
Hmm.
my knowledge, at this point, I'm the only doctor doing that. There's
Yeah.
no one teaching osteoporosis reversal, and I so far had a 100% success rate in that field.
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I understand what you're getting at here because it's really just lifestyle choices, and you start making the right choices. It's amazing what the body will do. I
Mhm.
see that as a possibility. I'm very much an optimist, but you know, the hardest part is getting somebody to have an open mind who's willing to do it. But someone like yourself, I know can convince someone. If someone seeks you out, sees you here on this video, and you're definitely the right person for the job, and that open
Well,
mind is the requirement.
thanks.
I'd say that's it.
Thanks so very much. I'm happy to do free talks with anybody who's interested. I always offer the first consult is free.
Yeah,
Anybody wants a link to that, I'm sure we can include it.
yeah. I'll put that down below. I'm also going to include a link to the vegan wellness retreat that we are both going to
Man,
be
is
part
that
of.
going to be the bomb?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's going to be down below. We already did that last June in Florida, and
Yeah.
it's an annual event, so it's happening again in Michigan in August, and it's 100% raw. And actually, our nonprofit has this healthy vegan food standard there that you see behind me, over on my left shoulder, and six pillars to that. All the foods is going to meet that standard at this event. It's all going to be raw too. So, and of course, Dr. Graham, you're going to be giving a number of talks. I know you're going to be doing different exercises with folks as well, right? So, yeah, you've got the link in
I'm
there.
going
I'm
to be
going to
doing
include that link.
presentations. I'll be doing a couple of demos. I'll be doing fitness classes. I'll be doing some customized one-on-ones. It's going to be a blast of an event. Going to be a real
Yes.
blast.
Yeah, and the key there is I think you have all these folks who are open-minded and they're all trying the best they can. They're trying to move out of the survive mode and into the thrive mode. And that's powerful. When you're surrounded by folks like that, it's really uh, it provides an energy and a motivation that you can't get anywhere else, I'd say.
Well, we'll take them right past thrive. We'll take them to flourish.
Flourish. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
The
word too.
biblical term, like the cedars of Lebanon, flourish like the cedars of Lebanon. It's absolute optimized health.
Yes, and that's what we like. I mean, we do believe, I think I sent you our definition of health optimization. It's a
Yes,
fully
I did. I read
balanced,
it.
yeah, fully balanced state of health that is shown by a lack of non-communicable disease. And that's totally possible, even though 80% of all health issues right now are due to non-communicable disease. I think 80% of all causes of death are as well, but it's optional in most cases. So yeah, I mean and you're the man. I mean you're the one who's uh, really, I'd say,
God
pioneered
bless.
this
Well, this is
space.
why I created the program called The Cause of Health, teaching people instead of trying to prevent disease, let's just cause health. And we talk about the
Right.
cause of health. And um, that was,
Is that talk
that was,
you're going to give a talk at the retreat in August about that?
yeah, well, again, as I mentioned earlier, I teach all of my presentations come from a philosophic standpoint that is the science of human health. And in the science of human health, the difference between the medical approach, which is to suppress disease, the science of human health is causing health. And again, the difference between these two approaches is that the medical people say, when you're healthy, do one thing, when you're sick, do something else.
Right,
So,
right.
drink milk if you're healthy, but don't drink it if you're sick because it'll make you congested. And I'm always
Hmm.
wondering, how does the milk know? Um, whereas in the science of human health, what's known as hygiene and the hygienic approach, what we say is that the
Yes.
substances, forces, influences, and conditions required for health are identical to those required for regaining health. And the only thing that is different is that the quantities are always changing. So the amount of rest, the amount of sleep, the amount of exercise, the amount of social time, the amount of sun, this is
Mhm.
constantly in flux. And it changes when we're healthy versus regaining health. So there might be times when you don't feel that well and you're just not that hungry. And that's
Right,
perfectly fine. But we
right.
always need food. People need food. Eventually, you got to eat. And
That's right.
and so it's a philosophic approach, and all of my presentations are based on this philosophy of causing health, supplying optimum conditions, and defining that bullseye of the target. For me, this has been a life's work, defining the bullseye of the target. Whether
Right,
people want to run, walk, skip, or hop towards that target is up to the individual. It depends how motivated they are.
right.
So, um, gosh, can you imagine not knowing where the bullseye of the target was?
Well, I think,
What it
unfortunately,
consisted of? It'd
yeah,
be very
unfortunately,
hard
I'd
to
say
hit
that,
the bullseye if you don't even know that it exists or where it is. So I
yeah,
define it, I describe it, I show
yes.
people how to get there, create a one-on-one path to take everybody in that direction.
Yeah, I'd say that's how the traditional medical system is out there right now. The sick care system, they don't define that bullseye. There's no goal there. That's very
No,
unfortunate, but at least you have that. That's good. I mean, and I would agree with the motivation
thanks.
part too, because, I have a book that I wrote called Live to 150. That's why I think we can live there or get
Hmm.
there. But so much of it just depends on giving the individual the proper motivation. Because I think anybody can do anything, but each person's different. So I mean, you have a tremendous amount of experience in this. You can identify what's gonna be needed to motivate somebody, to get to that target you're looking
What
for.
motivates people is knowledge times need.
Hmm. Knowledge times need.
That's
Okay.
it. Knowledge times need results in motivation.
All right. So there has to be some type of educational component there.
It's
So,
it's a
right.
it's a multiplier. So if there's no knowledge, then so people are dying in hospitals for lack of knowledge that they could get out. And if there's no need, then same deal. If you say, "Oh, I'm perfectly fine. I don't need to take better care of myself." Well, then fine. They could have all knowledge in the world with no need. You still have zero motivation.
That's right.
Knowledge
Yeah.
times need. So you increase your knowledge through books, tapes, live associations with the people who have what you want to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge comes from. The need is you defining your wants, your desires, your preferences, your goals, and then working towards them. That's your own
Mm-hmm.
need. This is why things like athletic competitions are so motivating. People say, "Oh, I'm gonna." This is why bikini season is so motivating. Oh, it's coming in just 3 months.
Yeah, hurry.
I
Come
better
on.
get motivated. So
There
they're
you
working
go.
against the clock. They're showing up, and this makes a world of difference when you have a defined need.
Mm-hmm. That
You can
timeline,
think of
that
it as
short
your
timeline.
reason. Why are you training? Well, I'm going to a competition. Okay, well that's my desire. That's my goal. That's my need.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
reason.
So that's
So
it.
for
Yeah.
me, I spent the first 20 years of my life sicker than a dog, man. Nobody should ever be that sick. And
Uh,
haven't been sick since 1980. I kind of like it. I intend to keep it this way.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a motivate. That's wonderful motivation, I'd say. Yeah, that's it. Because you only have to realize that it's within your control, and that it's all dependent upon your choices, and
Totally.
you're not going to make the wrong ones now that you know what you know. Oh,
You can cause your own health, you can cause your own sickness. And
mm-hmm.
as you say, it's a numbers game. I mean, there could be one in a million where there's an exception here and there in the way things work, but I haven't met the exception in terms of the clients I work with, they get well. We supply healthful conditions, health happens. It's no different than raising a begonia or a petunia. You give it what it needs, it thrives. You give it
Yeah.
anything else than what it needs, or not enough of what it needs, or too much of what it needs, you give it only and exactly what it requires. It's already pre programmed into all life forms. Thriving, flourishing health is pre programmed. That's the birthright.
Mm-hmm.
Anything less
Mm-hmm.
than that is caused. Uh, and for me, that's why I love working with athletes so much. Is many of them are really motivated to be their absolute best.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you think we'll ever get to a point in time where the average child is raised with those teachings from their parents, like the average child?
Well, it's fully my intention to see the entire world vegan and predominantly raw. So my
Yeah.
answer is yes, that's my intention.
Yes. Okay. Well, I mean, that's the way it needs to be because you can imagine, like you said yourself, you were sick for the first 20 years of your life. Well, what if you
Yeah.
had parents with this who had this knowledge, right? They just didn't know. But what if they
They
had it?
just
How
didn't
much?
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just didn't know. If they'd known that, they'd have done the same as I did for my daughter, raised her on raw food.
Right. Yes. And I mean, I'm so thankful for seeing that you've done that. And I've seen that others have been doing that as well. I mean, you're like I said, you're a pioneer, I would say. That's the word I would use to describe you. Others are now following in your footsteps, and we're witnessing this, Denise and I wish I had that knowledge when my kids were younger. They're adults now, and I've actually
Yeah.
apologized to them because I didn't know this information. But the thing is, it's not well received because they still don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't have it growing up. It's going to take them longer to learn this. I still am hopeful that they will learn it. But
Every family needs a leader, and leaders lead from the front. So
that's
just keep
right.
setting the example. Your actions speak louder.
Yeah, well, you as well, Dr. Graham, because I'd say that just about everybody is following in your footsteps right now, and
Thank you.
extremely thankful for all the work that you've done and continue to do. And because there is so much more to be done, right? I mean, even now that you seem to have identified everything and you know what to do, it's trying to get the rest of humanity to wake up, and that
Yeah,
is,
that's part of the challenge.
yeah, that is
It's
not an easy task.
outreach is a big part of the challenge. And this is why I'm coaching coaches. All right. I have an 80-10-10 coaches program for people who want to become coaches. And
Okay.
I'm spending my time coaching them. Um, this is tremendously rewarding to me. I want there to be thousands of coaches out there teaching 80-10-10. The
Wonderful.
word is getting out.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, with all the information we have now, the information's there. The challenge is to get people to do this in their daily lives, to get people to be able to leave their house and do these things as well. So to me, that's one of the most pressing issues right now in society, is trying
Mhm.
to make this transition happen. So again, I'm thankful that you're doing this and you know
Uh,
talking to us about it as well.
bless you. I say the same to you. I look forward to seeing you at the Vegan Wellness Retreat in
Yeah,
Michigan. It's August,
yeah.
and um,
And all that's
I'm
down
gonna, I'm
below.
gonna wish you the very, very best. Yeah, my
Yeah,
link.
thanks.
If anybody wants to have a free consult with me, I put that in the chat, Mike, so you can include that as well.
All right, it's down in the description, so just click down there if you want to contact Dr. Graham. Thank you, Dr. Graham, and I hope to talk to you again soon, definitely in August,
Thank,
if not before then.
thanks again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye-bye.